We'll call the order the Board of Commissioners meeting for Douglas County, Nebraska for Tuesday, February 25th, 2025. Please note that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is located on the north wall of the Legislative Chamber alongside an automatic external defibrillator. Please stand for the pledge. We'll first go into our Douglas County Board of Equalization meeting. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Borgeson, Commissioner Kavanaugh, Commissioner Fahey, Commissioner Friend, Commissioner Morgan, Commissioner Rogers, Mr. Chair.
Here. First item of business are items A and B, A being the approval of the minutes of the Board of Equalization meeting held Tuesday, February 11th, 2025, and B being a call for a meeting on set Tuesday, March 11th, 2025, as date for hearing on certified assessment corrections reflecting the addition of omitted property to the tax rolls or increased value on property. Do I have a motion and a second? Second. Motion by Rogers, second by Morgan. Please vote.
Doesn't seem to be showing it,
We might have an issue with the voting machine today, but motion passes unanimously. Commissioners Borgeson and Morgan are voting yes, so motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. We'll go into our resolutions. Resolution C through I under equalization. I'll take a motion in a second, which could include adjournment.
So moved.
Motion to approve resolution C through I plus adjournment. Was there anybody here that wanted to comment on the resolutions under equalization?
DNS, Douglas County Clerk, just, I know if everyone has an agenda in front of them, they'll see that item E was removed from the agenda, so the C through I less E.
Copy. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Anything else on resolutions? If not, we'll vote.
If you, Commissioners Morgan and Borges, if you want to try one more time, and then if it doesn't work again for you, we'll. Okay. There we go. All right, great. Yep. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. That concludes Board of Equalization. We'll now go into Board of Commissioners. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Borgeson, Commissioner Kavanaugh, Commissioner Fahey, Commissioner Friend, Commissioner Morgan, Commissioner Rogers, Mr. Chair.
Here. First item of business are items A and B under Section 1, A being the approval of the minutes of the Board of Commissioners meeting held Tuesday, February 11th, 2025, and B being the approval of claims submitted for payment process through Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. Do we have a motion and a second? Motion by Rogers, second by Morgan. Please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. I'm going to briefly take us to Section 5 under recognitions, proclamations. I know that we have a special guest on Zoom that Commissioner Borgeson has invited to participate in the Women's History Month's proclamation, so I will pass it to Commissioner Borgeson.
Thank you. If I may read the resolution first. Whereas Women's History Month is a celebration of women's contributions to history, culture, and society, and has been observed annually in the month of March in the United States since 1987. And whereas the week of March 8, which is International Women's Day, was selected as the focal point of this month's observance. And whereas women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of the United States of America in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. And whereas the National Women's History Alliance, which spearheaded the movement for March being declared National Women's History Month, has announced the theme for 2025 as Moving Forward Together, Women Educated and Inspiring Generations. This theme celebrates the collective strength and influence of women who have dedicated their lives to education, mentorship, and leadership. And whereas from classrooms to boardrooms and from grassroots movements to global initiatives, women educators and leaders have played a pivotal role in nurturing minds and inspiring transformative action. And whereas the 2025 theme spotlights the contributions women have made to the American educational system, the free marketplace for ideas, and for every fabric of our democracy. And whereas despite these contributions, the role of American women in history has been consistently overlooked and undervalued in literature, teaching, and study of the American history. And whereas women have played a unique role throughout the history of the nation by providing a majority of the volunteer labor force and establishing early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions in our nation. And whereas women have served our country courageously in the military and as elected officials. Now therefore be it resolved by this Board of County Commissioners, Douglas County, Nebraska, that this board hereby recognizes March as Women's History Month and continues to honor the many incredible achievements of women in Douglas County, Nebraska, and throughout this nation, dated this 25th day of February 2025. And I would move to approve. And the special guests that we have today, women have also played an instrumental role in sports. And here in Douglas County, Omaha, we're proud to have the Supernovas as our first women's volleyball team, professional volleyball team. And we are so honored today to have Coach Laura Bird-Kuhn with us to say a few words to us about Women's History Month. So welcome, Coach Bird. We're so happy that you can be on Zoom. We understand you have to get to practice, and that's obviously way more important, but we thank you for being with us, and so the floor is yours.
Well, good morning. I am honored to have gotten this invitation, and it is a special month, but a special time for obviously the landscape of women's athletics and women's professional sports. And so I'm honored to be able to speak with you, this group. And I do believe it is huge to empower and inspire women all ages. I know that with our pro sport, it's a lot of the youth impact that we're having, and it's inspiring for them. But I believe that it's inspiring for all of us as peers, as women, to uplift and support each other and the impact and the strides that we have made throughout history, but especially right now. I think it is extremely important to withhold these special recognitions and months for women, minorities, whatever the case is. I think that us empowering and supporting each other, I love the theme together. I've said in this together as we're, trailblazing and starting women's volleyball, the new landscape of pro volleyball in the United States. But it's more than just sports for us. It's everything. And for us to support each other and impact our world and this nation, I think it's very important. And like I said, especially right now in this landscape, I think it's important to keep these traditions intact. And I appreciate and am honored to be a guest for you, but to also have an impact in our community. I think our Omaha Supernovas organization is very special, and what we've been able to accomplish in the last year and a half, as we're in season right now in our second season professionally. I am proud to be a part of it, and I'm proud to be one of the leaders and trailblazers, but also doing this with all the parties involved, even across the states, these different organizations and teams. There are a lot of strong women that are kind of a part of all of these things that are happening with our sport. But I can't wait to have this grow and us involve the WNBA and get connected with more of the professional landscapes and entities that are already established. So, like I said, I'm honored, and I appreciate being a guest for you and being able to speak on behalf of women in sport, women leaders. I think that it's a very special time for us.
Well, thank you, Coach. And I can tell you, growing up, sports played an instrumental part of my life as well, through grade school and high school. And if people have not gone to watch the Supernovas, I encourage you to do so, because it is one of the most thrilling, exciting, and it is inspiring to watch the young girls just sit there and just they're just so excited to watch you all play. And it's exciting. And again, I thank you so much for taking time out of your day today to be with us, and thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate you guys. We're home Thursday and Sunday.
Yes.
Reach out. Let
Yeah.
me know. We would love to have you guys out as guests so we can get tickets. I can help you guys get connected, but we appreciate the support.
All right. Thank you very much, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we do have a motion and second. The motion was from Borgeson. The second was from Morgan for the resolution. If there's no further comment, we'll go ahead and vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. And while we're in the section of recognitions and proclamations, we'll go ahead and jump to our Irish American Heritage Month's recognition led by Commissioner Kavanaugh and Commissioner Fahey. So I will toss it to them.
Thank you. Since 1991, the President has designated March as Irish Heritage Month. And at least since I've been on the board since 2015, we've done the same, as have the City Council of Omaha, Ralston, Legislature of Nebraska. This year's resolution reads as follows. Whereas Irish American Heritage Month has been celebrated by presidential proclamation since 1991, and whereas Irish American Heritage Month culminates with St. Patrick's Day on March 17th, celebrating St. Patrick, the patron saint of Ireland, and the many significant contributions made by the Irish to our community, our state, our nation, and our world. And whereas the 2025 celebration will kick off on March 1st with the Irish Music Fest at the Fraternal Order of Eagles Club 38 at 6 p.m. featuring the Chancey Brothers. And whereas on March 2nd, the Ladies' Ancient Order of Hibernians, which by the way were founded in Omaha, will celebrate Irish culture by hosting a hoolie at the German American Society from noon to 6 p.m. featuring food, entertainment for the whole family. And whereas the Omaha Irish Cultural Center will host the second annual Irish Film Festival at the Gross Auditorium College of St. Mary campus in Omaha on March 7th and 8th, and at the Benson Theater in Omaha on March 9th. And whereas on March 8th, the Ancient Order of Hibernians, Father Flanagan Division, will host the 147th, actually that's the 153rd, I looked it up, annual St. Patrick's Day Parade, the oldest and largest ethnic parade in Omaha. And whereas on March 15th, the Omaha Irish Cultural Center will host the 10th annual St. Patrick's Day Awards Brunch at Field Club of Omaha at 11 a.m., honoring local Irish American leaders in public service, education, and business in a celebration of our shared Irish heritage. And whereas the Irish have immigrated in large numbers to Douglas County since its establishment in 1854, and whereas the Irish and Irish Americans have had a huge positive impact on the development of Douglas County, Nebraska, and the United States of America, now, therefore, be it resolved by this Board of County Commissioners, Douglas County, Nebraska, that this board hereby proclaims March 2025 as Irish American Heritage Month in Douglas County, dated this 25th day of February 2025. And I would so move.
Second.
Motion by Kavanaugh, second by Fahey. Any further comments on the resolution?
President of the Omaha Irish Cultural Center, Mr. Ed Fogarty, is here with us today.
My name's Ed Fogarty, and I live at 521 North 38th Street. And I feel humbled to have to speak after, but honored after the coach of the Supernovas. That's a walk-off home run, so I'm only going to say a couple of things. I look over this board as a person that was born in 1940 in Omaha with a grandma from Ireland who was so Irish Catholic she didn't want any of her grandchildren marrying out of either the church or the race of Irish. And now my granddaughter is a aspiring volleyball player out at Marion. And her grandfather on one side immigrated after World War II from England, no less. another grandfather on the other side is second generation Polish immigrants. And of course, my Irish background goes back to the 1830s on my Fogarty side, which as I look over this board, I'm struck on the fact that we're all immigrants and we all have stories and we all have something great to bring. The Irish and the Germans were first of the great wave of migration, followed by Italians and followed by the Polish, the Eastern Europeans, the great migration out of the South that Wilkinson writes about. And we got to this great place because we honor the best of what everybody brings. And so I just want to thank you from the point of view of Omaha Irish Cultural Center, a relatively young Irish group, not as old as the Hibernians, but we are really interested in preserving the culture of arts, theater, dance, song, political acumen, literature, and everything we bring, just like every other group. It's a great thing you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on the proclamation? Otherwise, we'll vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. We're going to go back to our consent agenda under section 2, items A through N. However, we are going to pull N because the staff intended that to be on the agenda for March 11th. So we'll go ahead and request that we table that till March 11th. So really, we're looking at A through M. And I know Mr. Clerk had a small revision on one of the items, if you want to say that.
Dan Esch, Douglas County Clerk. On item B, the agenda item in the resolution says Douglas Housing Authority. We just need to amend that to say Douglas County Housing Authority. Thank you.
Thank you. So somebody want to so move with that small correction, the consent agenda? Second. By Kavanaugh, second by Morgan. Discussion on consent agenda. Commissioner Kavanaugh?
I just have a couple of quick questions on a couple of items.
Yep.
On item C, make official the Douglas Sarpy Mutual Aid Interlocal Agreement with cooperating agencies to exercise extraterritorial law enforcement authority to enforce state laws and legal ordinances. And it has Deputy Chief Rinn on here. I see he's here today. Could you just share for us and with the public what this interlocal governmental agreement constitutes?
Certainly. This is a long-standing interlocal agreement between the parties listed. It expires every 5 years, after which what it ensures is that all of the agencies have access to resources, personnel in support of those efforts if there's ever a time where one agency needs either extra help or are absent due to call load, that it gives them authority to cross jurisdictional lines to assist with law enforcement activity. And we've been doing this so long as I've been in my career.
So say in our metropolitan area, we have municipal, county, and state borders on the border of Douglas County. Would this apply to all of those?
Yes, it would.
And would this affect ongoing investigations that may overlap these lines in our area?
Yes, sir, it would.
How about hot pursuit?
That is also covered in that, as well as our internal policies for pursuit.
Okay. And this has been in place in some form for some time?
As long as I can, that I've been employed here, yes.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one more.
Yep. Go ahead.
On the item E, and I see Mark LaFleur is here from the Youth Center. Agreement between Douglas County Youth Center and Ku Ilan Haley of Stop the Nonsense for Douglas County Youth Center Youth to be given the opportunity to participate in a mentorship program. And And I want you to just kind of give us an idea of the program itself. And is this a new program, or have we been doing this for some time? And, just so
Sure.
people know what
Mark
we're doing.
LaFleur, Douglas County Youth Center. We've been in connection with COO and the Stop the Violence program for about 4 years now. He's been one of our regular attendings for our Career Center. And we have currently 5 individuals who are taking college classes at Metro Community College. And we find that we get a little bit more success when some of those individuals have mentors. And he's agreed to volunteer to assist and help some of our mentors that are continuing through school and just needing some additional support.
And this is one of an array of programs that you offer children that are in your care.
Yes, we offer several programs for the young people at the youth center.
I have to say I was impressed. I was over at the youth center the other day, and I just happened to run into Johnny Rogers, who engages personally in another mentoring program and visits the children at the youth center on a weekly basis.
Yes, Johnny Rogers, pardon me, has been visiting for several months. I'm thinking 6 to 7 months. And he comes by as his schedule allows, but it typically is 3 to 4 times a month. And he meets with different units and talks to the children personally about some of his challenges that he had as a youngster and how he was able to persevere by putting some goals in place to get himself on track. And the children, they're so enamored to be in his presence, and he's even brought the Heisman Trophy to the youth center for the children to see, and he just does a wonderful job. And he also has a scholarship opportunity through Metro Community College, and he too has come and talked to the children and informed them that this scholarship is available for them if they're prepared to put in the work. So he really is a wonderful speaker and a dear friend of the youth center.
That's great. Thank you very much. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anybody else on the consent agenda?
Larry Store, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha, 68132. You skipped over the first one that I want to comment on. The item C, I believe it is. I'm definitely for that. This is a day in our history where things are really rapidly changing, and it's going to rapidly change for you people. But under the concept our founding fathers had for federalism, a county sheriff actually has more authority than any of you people or the state legislature. So yeah, I think we need interterritorial cooperation between the various law enforcements, particularly sheriffs, because the founding fathers had a concept called the constitutional sheriff. You might want to debate that someday. Read them first, what they said about it, and then you'll understand that a county sheriff may have more power than you do. So when you change the agendas unbeknownst to people, citizens, even those that prepared the night before and find something on the agenda that wasn't there on your website. But anyway, in favor of C, constitutional sheriff. And on number E, I'd like a discussion on what the hell stop the nonsense means. I pay taxes. I may have to sell my house in order to continue living because of the increase in property taxes due to programs like this. It's time for you people to tighten the belts and stop instituting new programs and hiring universities to run them for you. We can't afford it anymore. Put it back to the communities, the people, and stop the overspending that was never intended by the founding fathers or the federal government. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment on consent agenda? If not, we'll vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. That takes us to new business. We do have one item. Item A, discussion potential action to oppose the following legislation, LB 541, as requested by Commissioner Brian Cruz of the Election Commission. So Commissioner Cruz, if you'd like to come up and comment.
Good morning, Brian Cruz, Douglas County Election Commissioner. I'm here on behalf of myself and my deputy, Chris Carithers, and I think there was a little synopsis of the bill given in your packet. I'll just go over a couple highlights here and then answer any questions if you have any. But essentially, I think the bottom line to this bill is what problems are we solving here? I mean, I would say that's an overarching theme. The other one is there's some conflicting legislation within the bill, and I don't think there's any questions. It's taking a lot of rights away from voters, and that's why our association has opposed this. I'm co-chair of the Election Law Committee. NACO's opposed to this. Lancaster County Board and Hull County Board have also voted to oppose this bill. You know, it's full of unfunded mandates as well. One of the things is it wants to essentially eliminate online voter registration. We get over 80% of our online voter registrations online, which is a great thing because it's way more efficient for our office to process those. The big one is we don't have to attempt to read people's handwriting. And if you've ever had to read people's handwriting, it's literally like reading hieroglyphics. And I'm telling you, lots of letters go out to folks, and there's a much higher rejection rate or suspense rate on those paper forms we have, just simply because there's either missing elements or we just simply can't read it. It essentially, it wants to reduce, well, one section says reduce early voting from 35 days to 22 days, with the Postal Department now saying on average, you know, that it takes a week to get your mail. The post office also asks voters, this is from the U.S. Postal Office, not to mail your ballot back a week before the election because they can't guarantee it will be delivered to us. If we were to move from 35 to 22, you got to do the same amount of work in a lot less days. And we estimate that would need to be, for last fall's election, we'd have had to hire 22 additional employees. It'd have been in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. 50% of all people in Douglas County now vote by mail. And the number one reason we hear that they like to vote by mail is so they can take their time and be a better informed voter. If you remember, last fall if you lived in the city of Omaha, you had a 2-page ballot. There were 15 issues to study beyond judges and candidates. You know, the next section talks about going away from no excuse, early voting, which anybody can request a ballot for any reason, to having to have an excuse. There's only 3 states in the nation that currently you have to have an excuse: Alabama, Mississippi, and New Hampshire. And Mississippi has some legislation now to eliminate that. We've had this since 1999, 2000. We were a leader in that. I don't know why in the world we'd ever want to go back to that. And as you can see, the rest of the nation has moved in that direction. I also think it's worth pointing out, not only did both major political parties last fall and both major candidates for both political parties for president not only embraced early voting, but they had campaigns that they spent millions of dollars on to get their voters out to vote early across the nation. There's a section in there, we currently do a post-election manual audit that's administered by the Secretary of State's office as another level of security or protection to show that machines and counting is accurate. Currently, that's 10% statewide. This bill would move it to 25%. We have no idea where that arbitrary number came from, but we do all kinds of tests. Currently, there's just, again, that would cost more money and more time, and there's just no evidence to show that that's necessary. So those are some of the highlights of the bill. I've rarely in the 10 years come and ask for the board for an opposition vote on legislation for election. I don't know if I ever have. I may have once, but this is just a bill that our association, I can assure you clerks and election commissioners across the state, NACO, and other county boards are watching. The hearing's been set for March 5th. So myself and other clerks and other individuals will be testifying against this and laying out some more of the reasons, but these are the highlights. So again, it's just going back to what problems are we solving here? There's just no evidence that's been presented. There's been lots of talk about problems, but there's rarely, if ever, any evidence that's been presented to county attorneys or to sheriffs or election officials, to investigate these things. So I would appreciate your support on behalf of myself, my deputy, and the voters of Douglas County in not reversing rights for voters. We have a system that works. It works well. Obviously, our voters in Douglas County have embraced it. And so I just appreciate a vote to oppose this legislation. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cruz. Before we hop into debate, do I have a motion, a second for opposition? Motion by Borgeson, second by Kavanaugh. Let's hop into discussion, starting with Commissioner Kavanaugh.
Thank you. And thank you for this, Mr. Cruz. I think I mentioned before, I probably handled more recounts than any other living lawyer in the state of Nebraska, going back to before most of the people in this audience were born. However, in all that time, I haven't really come across any voter fraud, and that's 50-plus years. In the most recent series of elections where we have used these vote by mail and register online, have you discovered any voter fraud?
We have not. I never like to use absolutes, but it's extremely, extremely rare, especially here in Nebraska because of the processes and procedures and safety measures that we have in place, the duplicity, the triplicity, and things of that nature. So to answer your question, the answer is no.
And as far as you know, statewide in the 93 counties, has anybody recently been charged with voter fraud?
I believe there was a little tiny village maybe a year or two ago where some folks claimed to live there, but they were outside of the village limits, and they claim there was some confusion. I think there may have been that case, but
May have been one case.
Oh, maybe.
Millions of ballots.
no
Millions of
question.
ballots cast. Okay.
Yes.
In our experience, since these alternate ways of voting have become available, have they been popular with the electorate?
Absolutely. 50% of our electorate in Douglas County now choose to vote by mail, and on average, 75% of all ballots are now returned to a safe, secure drop box around the county. We have cameras on them. Voters have embraced them. They've liked the early voting. They've really liked the drop boxes. And we've had no issues with those. So 100%. Voters should have the ability to choose to vote the way they want, but we should also make that easy and convenient for them, which is what our current statutes do.
So it's easy, convenient, secure, and popular.
100%.
Okay. And this would change all that.
It would definitely roll it back, yes.
Yeah. And, I think for all those reasons, we should probably endorse your opposition to LB 541. I plan on voting for that opposition. This seems to me to be the latest in a long line of voter suppression efforts by people who aren't interested in getting the highest vote. I think the highest vote that we could possibly get should be all of our goals. I mean, I've said this before when you've appeared before us. Voting in a secure voting system is the air supply of our democracy, and you do an excellent job. You're a Republican, I'm a Democrat. There's never been any partisan question whatsoever in your administration of this very important function. So I want to thank you for that, and I want to thank you for bringing this to our attention, and I hope my colleagues will join in supporting your opposition to this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Commissioner Friend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brian, thanks for the information, and you know, I do have a couple of questions, but I won't go off on too much of a diatribe, I promise. I'm looking at Kim, and she's smiling. Look, I as you all know, I'm pretty selective, and not because I'm cool or anything. I'm pretty selective about what we're supporting and what we're opposing coming out of Douglas County. And let me give you one of the reasons why that I don't think I've ever really communicated. There have been 715 bills introduced in this 90-day session. 715 bills. Maybe, if you're lucky, a third of those are actually going to get to the governor's desk. And maybe a good portion of the third are actually going to be signed by the governor. 715 bills. We're not even through the legislative session. It's 150 days. So there's going to be a bunch more. There's going to be over 1,000. One of the things that some people may not remember, but they should, is there was a state senator we all knew, and his name was Ernie Chambers. His name is Ernie Chambers. And Ernie would go down there and he would look at these, and he would take, he was a master filibuster, of course. There was a reason. You could agree with him or disagree with him, and 90% of the time I disagreed with him. But the reason he did what he did is because there were 715 bills introduced on a regular basis. That's a bad idea. The best thing a legislature can do, in my opinion, is block stuff. Keep it from passing. You know what passing bills means? And you know what governor signing bills means? It means more regulation. So the funny thing is, you're talking about a guy who, came from a different cut of cloth or a specific cut of cloth in Ernie Chambers, and he would spend hours and hours beating the heck out of bills just like this one. I did read this bill. Senator Holcroft is a smart guy. He's a nice guy. I think he knows what he's doing. I don't know where this came from, but when I read it, I would add, and here's where my question comes in. When I read it, Brian, you just alluded to the fact that a lot of times these bills come forward, you're trying to solve a problem. What would you surmise is the problem they're trying to solve with this particular bill? Because I don't know. I read it. I don't know.
I would agree with you, and that's what I said in my comments. And also, not to take up your time, but you say you're careful about what Douglas County supports and opposes. We do too. I do at the Election Commission. That's why it's extremely rare, if ever, I've been here to ask for this.
Brian, you alluded also to the idea that a portion of this or all of it is an unfunded mandate. Do we know what the fiscal note looks like? I don't have it in front of me. I didn't look for that.
They haven't. The fiscal office didn't ask for a fiscal note. We've done some rough calculations in our office. I can tell you that it would definitely increase the number of permanent and part-time employees if early voting were eliminated. Now 50% of those folks have to move to a polling place. So we're going to have to try and find more polling places. You got to have more poll workers. I mean, I'm confident in saying hundreds of thousands of dollars per election, if not into the millions in a presidential election.
Okay, I'm out of time. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll go to Commissioner Cavanaugh.
Regarding the fiscal impact, I'm, again, old enough to have participated in paper ballot hand-counted elections. I think as recently as 1990, where I participated in a recount for governor of Nebraska, and it came down to 42 votes statewide. I sat in a room with, 5 folks out in Shadron Courthouse, and we went through all of the ballots counted and cast in that county. But I've been through recounts in Omaha, Nebraska of paper ballots as well. And it's a massive operation, very labor intensive. So the fiscal note would go from, okay, now you have a kind of electronic scanning of paper ballots, we still keep paper ballots, have a paper trail, to we're gonna have people instead of scanners count all of those ballots. Well, those are people that you currently don't have on staff, is that correct?
That's correct.
And so you're gonna have to hire them and we're gonna have to pay for them. And that's on every single election going forward.
Absolutely. And we don't have the facility to do that. So now you're going to have to rent someplace or, I mean, just as a practical matter.
Right.
And that's where you could really start growing your fiscal note on that. I mean, the county probably has facilities, but anyhow, it's got to be secure. They've got to be safe. You've got to transport ballots. Do you have cameras there? Because, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Friend?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Final point, Brian, let's assume just for a second, that we come up, or our state legislators and the governor, I don't know where the governor stands on this. I don't know if he's taken a position. But let's just say for 1 second that the state had a very valid, specific reason that they could pinpoint that legislation like this would be important to enact into law. If they did have that, do we know based on the writing of this bill how much the state would reimburse? That's not known yet.
That is not known. I mean, either way, taxpayers are going to have to foot the bill, whether it's at the state level or the local level.
Okay, and here's my problem with that. Again, a good 70 to 75% of what we're doing on a pretty consistent basis is mandated by the state. They say you have to do it. Now, sometimes they don't tell you the amount you have to pay. They just say you got to do it. Okay, now we're going to get another one. All right, so look, long story short, if I had an opportunity, I could pound the heck out of this bill. I could take 8 hours to rip this to shreds. And the lawyers better come in, and they better convince me that we're trying to solve a problem, because this is regulatory constraint. Anybody that thinks they're a libertarian or a Republican, you better read this real close. And you better understand exactly what's actually happening. That's all I'd have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Borgeson?
I just have to say I support opposing this, and the question was asked, where did this come from? Well, look across the country. I mean, seriously. All this is people throwing out, again, misnomers, untruths about voter fraud, and creating these legislative bills for folks to take up, again, to keep that fear and scare and fear-mongering alive. And again, there has been none. And I take that back. You know what I'm talking about. So again, to me, some legislators get these bills, they get them from organizations that we hear are terrible organizations, and we shouldn't take anything that they say or follow anything that they do. And to me, this is one of them. This isn't just one, there's more out there at the federal level and at the state level that I think, again, we need to keep it in the hands of those who are doing it competently, like you and your deputy and our staff, and those across the county, across the country, of counties running very good elections. And we just need to continue to do that and fight this fear-mongering and nonsense as we move along. So I will, well, I made the motion, but I'll be supporting your the opposition to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on this topic?
Thank you. Larry Storer, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha, 68132. I assume we're still operating under an emergency, so I would like to request a little more time. This may not be Mr. Cruz's fault. He's maybe not aware of the facts. And primarily because the Secretary of State in this state does not disclose the facts. Mr. Robert J. Borer, and I've spoke about this many times, and you refuse to put this on the agenda for a discussion. But Mr. Robert J. Borer does have standing in this state. He ran for election 2 or 3 times. He has requested information about his votes, has been denied. He's requested information about the elections. He's been denied. Now, how many of you, raise your hands, have attended the many presentations in Omaha, Lancaster County, and across the state about the real facts of election fraud? Raise your hand if you attended even one. Then you would maybe understand what I'm saying. Mr. Friend maybe understands it. That bill, by the way, you all of a sudden put politics and legislation back on your agenda. Strange information there. But a while back, they buried LB 1390 in the middle of another bill, which was to make people like me questioning the elections a criminal. Yes, but it's buried inside another bill, and it's laying in limbo so that they can spring it on us. Now, in South Dakota, this again, Brian, is no matter how nice he seems, now sincere he seems, he's maybe a patsy here. He's maybe not been told anything by the secretary, and neither of the other election commissioners. You need to have this on the agenda and presented because it's an emergency. It will be an emergency. It is an emergency. It's going to be worse. So we can tell you the real facts. You haven't been informed, Marianne. You didn't listen to anybody. But if you're paying attention to the citizens that vote for Mr. Trump, how many of them attend those rallies? How many of them are for him? How many for the changes? And those changes are coming to you. You better be prepared for it. You're going to have to cut your funding, etc. But Mr. Cruz does not know all the facts. We don't need to spend more money on a fraudulent election. And voting all this stuff in this bill is part of the cause of fraud. You need to check that out and hear this. Shake your head, but you have an obligation to listen to the people that hired you. We demand citizen comments back on the agenda. You are violating our freedom of speech. In South Dakota, Mr. Brian Cruz could not have taken my hat in the line outside the election office because in South Dakota, the sheriff deputy said, no, you can't do that. You're restricting that man's freedom of speech. They tried to make a lady turn her shirt inside out. She said, no, you can't do that. She voted in her bra. You know what? They were electioneering more than I was. I said nothing, but he wanted my hat.
10 seconds.
Okay? Thank you. You don't want to listen. Because it's an emergency, please insert at your earliest opportunity, which might be next week, Mr. Robert J. Borer on the presentation as an emergency. There'll be lots of people like me that'll be here. We want you to know the facts, but you have to listen.
Thank you. Any other comments on LB 541? If not, there's a motion for opposition. It's been seconded, so we'll vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. We'll now go to section 6 of the agenda, presentations. We have one today from Douglas County Sheriff's Office presentation outlining the current property crime trends, Special Operations Group, and Community Action Team statistics for 2024.
Hey, are you presenting? Yep. So I've got all three of the, oh, watch out, new touch screens.
This one and then this one. So we can start with this one here.
Okay. You can, yeah, you can arrow over or.
Good morning, Commissioners. Chief Deputy Will Niemock, Chief of Operations for Douglas County. Thanks for your time. I'm going to take up a real short amount of that time this morning introducing Captain Peterson and Captain Sellers to speak on some operational directions and production of the Sheriff's Office in the past year. I just want to thank all of you for your support and continued support for our efforts. As you know, there's many challenges to the 91 plus thousand population that we serve, to include the ETJ, one of the fastest growing counties in the nation. And so we're very happy, very proud to do our job and hopefully perform as best as possible. And this is just a short way for you to kind of see that return on investment. Law enforcement represents a large-scale, purposed burden on the budgets of everyone. We want to keep you fresh to that information of what is going on out there. So with that, I will give you Captain Sellers.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
What I want to talk about are just statistics on our property crimes and what we do for our Special Operations Group. And these two groups are both dedicated to reduce crime or attack crime where it's happening in the city or county to reduce it and arrest people. We'll start with the property crimes. Does this go right to the next slide? Right here? Mm-hmm. Okay, and again, you'll see some of these numbers. They'll go up and down. This is our 2-year. We compared 2023 to 2024, and ultimately over 27 years of doing this, 20 years of my career have been in criminal investigations. I've never seen a reduction, so much of a reduction in a lot of the crime. And why is that? I believe it's starting with our property crimes in CIB. We've divided our teams into property crimes and person crimes. What that allows us to do is concentrate on their area of expertise and how to combat this and reduce it. Again, in previous years, we went year to year, seeing rises in crimes, and we would work the crime as they came in, and really we didn't proactively go after those because we didn't have the manpower or the expertise to do so. So you'll see a lot of these numbers reducing. But construction theft reports in the last 2 years, they're down about 27%. However, the construction theft of the dollar amount is up about 55%. And why is that? Back 5 years, 10 years ago, somebody would break into a construction site and steal a bag of tools, maybe worth $1,000 or $2,000. I believe a lot of the suspects are going after higher dollar amount items. We're seeing bobcats stolen, telehandlers stolen. They're worth $50,000 to $80,000. As of the last year or so, we're working closely with a lot of the builders in the area through MOBA to combat that and put trackers on vehicles. Trackers that the owners are putting on, but it allows us to help track and identify suspects. Now, what I have seen in the last year or so is most of our suspects in construction thefts that we have arrested are repeat offenders. Many of times they're out on PTR, and now they're out doing it again, and then we'll arrest them a second and or third time. Burglary reports down 7%, and again, I believe all these numbers are showing because we're being proactive. It's just not, they're going down on their own. We're doing things to reduce this. Financial crimes, again, in the last maybe 5 to 6 years, our financial crimes, we'll see a large number of financial crimes increasing, but in this last year, we have reduced them 27%. However, the financial crime dollar amount, last year 404,000, this last year 1.5 million. And a lot of this is your scams overline with your Bitcoins and your kiosks. I know you've all heard about that and what we're doing to help try to reduce people being able to take advantage of victims through kiosks, and about $1.5 million. And I believe that's just in the county outside the city, so that's, who knows what the dollar amount inside the city looks like. Yes. Sorry, yes. Theft reports down 18%. Theft from vehicle reports down 32%. Auto theft reports down 30%. Total property theft crime reports down 23%. And the summary here that I just want to point out is the successes we have, the number of investigators we have back in CIB. Again, we want to increase that number, but what we've done is split that team up of 9 investigators into half of them being experts on property crimes and the other person crimes. So the others would do your assaults and stuff like that. But we really have a dedicated team just looking at property crimes. Huge thing for us that we've added, that you allowed us to add a year ago, were the license plate readers. Almost every case we're seeing, we touch onto the license plate readers to help develop suspects, and now we're sharing with outside agencies who have license plate readers as well. And it's been a tool that's just a great tool for us. And also our cooperation between DCSO and the local builders. I touched base with that. Again, we've met with many builders and through MOBA, and trying to identify how to reduce those construction thefts, and I believe what we're doing is working. What are our challenges? Again, I touched base on this, repeat offenders. Whatever we do to stiffen up on PTR, whether it's through corrections and or with the judges on what we need to do to track these people better. I know my office works with corrections on those are on PTR to help try to develop ways to stop this, but it's still a work in progress. Again, the increased monetary value of items being taken is a challenge. I mean, again, back in the day when it was $1,000 at a time taken, now you're seeing 20, 50, or more taken at a time.
Do you want the next one now?
Yeah, the special operations.
Oh, it's right there. Okay.
Okay, next what I want to talk about is our special operations group. And now this is a newer group we developed last year. So maybe in March, I think, is when we started it, and this year. So you'll see the numbers for the 2 years. Last year was kind of the startup of it. So you'll see some numbers that seem a little lower. Some are higher. And we'll go over why that is. But essentially, we developed this group out of what traditionally you hear as VNOC, Vice and Narcotics, to not only attack the narcotics in the area, but to track overdoses through fentanyl, to go after certain property crimes, person crimes, where we need a tactical approach to that crime, whether it's a repeat offender or a violent offender, and trying to make an impact. This is where we're going to see our largest impact of crimes, where we never had this before to go after this. This now we are doing it, and we're seeing a great decrease in a lot of the stuff where the crimes in the county. But again, we'd love to grow this in the future to really make a large impact.
Let me check that I'm shared on Zoom. Sorry.
Okay, certainly.
Is that it?
Yep.
Thanks.
So what is a special operations group? Again, a group of, we have approximately 8 people assigned to it, divided between the shifts. They're all tactically trained. They're all members of our SWAT. Why is this important? Many of the cases they work are for violent offenders, and instead of calling out the whole SWAT team, we can use them as a smaller contingent, saving money. They're all trained. They're safe when going into residence and tackling the issues at hand here. But over the last 2 years, you'll see these numbers in 23 and 24, meth seized. Percentage change, 149% in meth taken over the last 2 years. Cocaine seized, 139% increase. We'll see, we did see a large decrease in marijuana seized, and I believe that's because in 2024, we were working a lot of larger time-consuming cases that were federally adopted, and we had, I believe we had 18 federal indictments on those cases, but those were month-long cases, several months long. Fentanyl seized, and this is where all of our concern is. I mean, 192%. We're all seeing an increase in fentanyl. We're seeing the strength of fentanyl increasing, where it's taking multiple doses of Narcan to bring somebody or revive somebody, and that's a very big concern on our part. The whole community, I know, we're all concerned about it, so how do we address that? Prescription pills seized, up 796%. I mean, it's so many of the prescription pills, you know, they say 7 out of every 10 are laced with fentanyl as well, or have some kind of fentanyl in it, so we're seeing a lot of overdoses that way as well. Handgun seized, we actually seized less handguns over the last year, but total weapons seized were 32 in 2024 and 37 in 2023. And again, I think some of that's attributed to the long cases we were working in 2024 that were just so time consuming. Currency seized in 2023, $274,000, and in 2024, $95,000 between multiple cases. Cases charged and warrants. Just cases assigned, you'll see like in 2024, you'll see 222 cases. And in 2023, that was kind of our upstart, 23 cases. Felony charges in 2024, 190, misdemeanor charges, 29, arrest warrants, 149, and search warrants, 44 search warrants altogether. And that's just for 2024. We also have one member assigned to the U.S. Postal Inspection Task Force. What they're doing is looking for packages going through the mail system. And in 2024, we really started, I believe it was midway through 2024, we had him join the team, Deputy Andy Woodward, and fentanyl. He received 6 pounds of fentanyl pills, 13 pounds of meth, 60 grams of cocaine, 14.5 pounds of THC products other than marijuana, and then marijuana 5.5 pounds through the mail system. Okay.
That one.
Next I'll pass you over to Captain Chris Peterson with the Road Patrol, and he'll talk a little bit of talk to you about their statistics they're seeing.
Good morning. Captain Christopher Peterson, Douglas County Sheriff's Office, Uniform Services Bureau. I just have one slide today, what you see up there. I'm just going to briefly talk about 2023 versus 2024 traffic fatalities. What I'd like to point out, a few items here. Overall in the state of Nebraska, fatalities are up by 10%. 2023, we had 227 statewide. Last year, we had 251 fatalities in the state of Nebraska. Douglas County, as a whole, with all the metro agencies, we went from 50 fatalities up to 67. However, in unincorporated Douglas County, that actually dropped 10%, which I think is important to point out. Over the past several years, we have seen continued residential and business growth in unincorporated Douglas County. The growth has also seen on our roadways and state highways within our jurisdiction, an increase of almost 7%. This growth has come with some challenges, and one of the top concerns with any community is traffic safety. The DCSO is pleased to report that over the past 12 months, traffic fatalities in unincorporated Douglas County have decreased along with the overall traffic crashes. This is significant, especially considering both Douglas County as a whole and the state of Nebraska has seen an increase in traffic-related deaths in 2024. Key factor for the decrease in fatalities, the Douglas County Sheriff's Office Community Action Team is a working group that focuses on traffic-related issues, responding directly to citizens' concerns, crash data, mapping to address the problems at problem intersections. A few other things to point out. All the metro agencies that we work closely with, they are aware of our community action team. Very routinely, several times a month, they reach out to us with assistance when they know when there's a planned speeding event, racing event someplace in the county, whether it's unincorporated or not. We address high-risk, reckless driving incidences, occurrences throughout the county. Our goals, we continue to build CAT. In fact, next month, March, we'll be adding another member to the CAT team to help aid in our efforts. Again, our main focus is traffic-related activities. We are making a major impact with traffic in unincorporated Douglas County. One of the other things to point out, we have several highways, state highways that run in unincorporated Douglas County. Those are key focuses for us to hinder speeding, reckless driving, and so forth. One of the other items that we're working closely with state highway departments, county roads departments, is seeing what we can do to prevent any more fatalities or at least decrease them as a whole and other traffic accidents. We're looking at timing on the traffic stop lights. There's several where the speed goes from, say, 65 down to 55, but in a very, very short distance from where that light is, and then the timing in addition to that distance just does not work out. So we're working closely with them, hoping to get that done the next several months to adjust the timing and the speed in these areas, which I do firmly believe that will decrease the number of fatalities, accidents, and so forth. That is all I have. If there's any questions, be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Much appreciated. We're going to go into discussion, starting with Commissioner Cavanaugh.
Thank you. And I want to thank you all for your reports. Sheriff, I might have a quick question or two for you. The last year's report, if I recall, on thefts from construction sites indicated that there was one individual who was committing a lot of these thefts. And I believe, looking at the decline, the significant decline in the number of incidents, that you may have had some success in removing this individual from the board. Is that correct?
You know, there was a Douglas County Sheriff Aaron Hansen, just for the record. There was a theft group early in 2023, towards the end of 2022, which arrests had been made. One of those individuals had been sentenced to pretty significant prison time. Unfortunately, the other one was released fairly quickly. We do suspect that he's back up to his old tricks at this time. But as we've said many times, there is a small handful of these individuals. And I want to make sure I'm clear. I know that pretrial release supervision was mentioned. That's not the only supervision that we see people reoffending. We see it on probation. We see people recently being released from prison, committing that repeat crime behavior over and over. So it's not one particular area of supervision that we're experiencing this.
I appreciate it. And this is a very valuable document in terms of giving us kind of a sense of where we are in terms of property crimes. I would be interested if maybe we would have another report from you regarding crimes against persons, murders, manslaughters, assault and battery, rape, robbery, to see where we are in that category. And I'm sure that you have statistics like this, and this probably isn't the day for that. But if you could maybe come back to us with crimes against persons on a similar format that you have property crimes.
We will do that, and we'll strive to do that within the next 30 days. This was a specialized area that we really wanted to focus in on because we know we can really bend the numbers if we have an appropriate business model in place. You can expect within the next 30 days we'll bring a presentation on person crimes.
Thank you. And you do a good job of keeping Douglas County residents safe. And I want to commend you and your staff for the hard work that you put in. Particularly, I mean, it can't be easy out there, western Douglas County, when it's 20 below zero in the middle of the night. But you provide adequate, better than adequate support for the folks that live out there. And thank you.
I'm glad you brought that up, Commissioner. Really quick, I do want to thank our road patrol deputies as well, only because of that cooperation between our Criminal Investigations Division, Road Patrol, CAT, and Special Operations Group. That's where the best balance is in there to prevent that crime before it happens. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Commissioner Morgan.
Sheriff, as long as you're here, I want to be sure to thank your staff, people, presentation, but I also want to mention that I really appreciate what you're doing on kind of helping with the clothing donations and everything at 156. I'm not sure how long ago you started that, but that is really helpful to those people that are homeless and what you're trying to do there. And I know you've been working at that for really since you got there. I remember you helping some of the people around 93rd and Dodge, 87th and Cass and so on. So thank you for that fundraising effort that you're doing with clothing and quilts and so on.
You know, I gotta give the majority of the credit to our community action team, the deputies and the supervisors that are actually boots on the ground in that effort, because we all know if there's a complaint from a citizen in any county district that deals with a homeless encampment, they will descend on that area and try to ensure that the law is enforced. But at the same time, they're building relationships with the folks in those camps, and they realize they have unique needs. They're a vulnerable population. And our deputies are really on the front end of wanting to help them as well, either whether it's connecting them with services through the shelter, pushing for donation drives for warm clothes or boots, or just trying to generally help connect them with services that'll get them out of that lifestyle. So I got to give the lion's share of the credit to our rank and file on that.
But it also, that credit's due, but also credit to you because you respond. And I've had people call, and my comment back to them is, you know, yes, Sheriff Hansen is on it. And, you know,
one member
whether it's at 2 in the morning in Commissioner Kavanaugh's district, sitting there because of some people walking around homes at 2, 3 in the morning, you were there yourself, plus your staff, helping in that area, and just thank you for the good job you do.
I appreciate your comments. I'm but one member of a larger team. Most of the more important players
Right.
make up the majority of the team. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Commissioner Fahey.
Thank you, Sheriff. I want to thank the whole department for coming. I especially just want to acknowledge and thank you for, putting the period on the traffic fatalities and your work there. I know the department, your office is proactive about it, and frankly, doing some work that should fall on the shoulders of governing bodies, administrative agencies, and planning departments in terms of recognizing and understanding that traffic fatalities, almost more than any other of the sort of fatalities that we are confronted with, represent policy choices by policymakers. And so I thank you guys for being on top of it, and my colleagues are going to have to get used to me hearing and trumpeting this over and over again, that 10 deaths in unincorporated Douglas County is too many, 9 is too many, and I just want to thank your office for addressing that.
Thank you, Commissioner. A couple quick comments. Number one, it's the top complaint we receive. And we've seen it both in our University of Nebraska-Omaha criminal justice surveying of our constituents. It's a top issue far and away, the top public safety issue they're concerned about. But number two, we know statistically if you're going to lose a family member, a loved one, or your own life, it's going to statistically be as a result of a traffic fatality as opposed to a criminal offender. And we take both very seriously. But that's one reason why, thankfully, Chief Niemock has done an excellent job working with Captain Peterson and the Uniformed Services Bureau command staff to create the CAT team so that our traditional road patrol deputies can focus on 911 calls for service, but we can have that specialized contingent of problem solvers out there working on quality of life issues, whether it be traffic complaints or any other neighborhood issue.
Thank you. Any other comments on the presentation today? If not, we'll give our thanks to the captains, chiefs, and sheriff for the update, the information, and your quality of work. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that being said, we'll go to Section 7, public hearings. We have one today. Item A, a public hearing for Class C for Red Rock Canyon Grill Omaha LLC, DVA Mahogany Prime Steakhouse, located at 225 North 145th Street, Omaha, Nebraska 68154, with manager application for Andrew Roy. I'm going to open up the public hearing for this item. Is there anybody that wanted to comment during the public hearing? If not, I will close the public hearing and ask the will of the board. Motion to approve by Borgeson, second by Morgan. Comment by Commissioner Rogers.
Mr. Chair, I'm just curious, why is this coming to us? I mean, it's in the city limits, though.
Dan Esch, Douglas County Clerk. It's surrounded by the city, but this is in the, out by Boys Town.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I'm
it just
wondering,
it just hasn't been annexed by the city yet. So
Really?
it's
Okay.
yeah, so it's actually it's got to come to us. So
Okay, no, I thought that was, thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second for approval. Please vote.
motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. That takes us to committees. Under finance, we have budget report as presented. Then we go to human resources, where we have our weekly personnel report also as presented. We do have a need for executive session today for the purposes of litigation and labor negotiations. Before I take a motion on that, I see a light from Commissioner Kavanaugh and Commissioner Borgeson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There will be a community services meeting next Tuesday at 1 p.m. in room 903 upstairs. I don't see attached to this the notice of the committee hearing, but because there's no board meeting next week, I'm making this announcement tonight. This will be regarding the Visitor Improvement Fund grants, and we have, I believe, about $5 million this year in the Visitor Improvement Fund Grant Program. So the chairman of that committee and interested parties from the public, grant recipients are invited to attend, and we'll discuss that program and the grant cycle, which is about to begin. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kavanaugh. We'll go to Commissioner Morgeson.
You. I would just like to remind everyone that our Mental Health Awareness Night with the Lancers is Saturday, March 8th, starting at 6:05 p.m. It's the Omaha Lancers versus the Tri-City Storm at the Ralston Arena. They did this last year, if you remember, and it was a huge success. And I was totally impressed with the number of Douglas County employees that came and supported the event. And so their Lancers were willing to do it again. And so again, it's March 8th at 6:05. There are tickets available at a discounted rate. I would say get a hold of Jake or Leah. They can give you the specifics. Or the little flyer has a QR code to scan to get them, but anyway, it was a lot of fun, and I would encourage everybody to go this year. So, thank you.
Thank you. Also, quick reminder, the board will not be meeting next week. We'll be returning on Tuesday, March 11th. With that being said, I'll take a motion for executive session.
So moved.
Motion by Roger, second by Morgan. Please vote. Commissioner Kavanaugh, something else?
Sure.
Litigation and labor negotiations.
Okay, thank you.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. The board will now be going into executive session for the purpose of litigation and labor negotiation.
Motion to reconvene and adjourn by Commissioner Borgeson, second by Commissioner Friend. The motion passed 5-0. Commissioners Morgan and Rogers were absent. The meeting adjourned at 11:45 a.m.